Welcome to the Tom Matt Show. You are walking through the front door of the refirement zone. And now, your host, Tom Matt.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Tom Matt Show. Last week, a young guy named Dallas Sims was here. One of my buds from the gym, student I know at Michigan State University. Guy's got more things going on than I do. That's hard to do. Called him the young superstar. He's got many things happening in his life. And if, again, the journey into higher ed, which is a popular topic on the radio program, podcast, check those out. If you've got a student that's getting ready, if you got a grandkid that's in middle school or high school, these episodes with the students and their stories about what it took for them to get into college and how they made the journey, they're all different. They're all interesting. And like, for example, Emma Gillies, who was on earlier this year, her story of being a transfer student was very compelling. I mean, they're all solid. And these kids that I interview that I know from the gym that are my friends are absolute dynamite, great kids. They're in there early, doing their work and getting things done. They're the leaders of the future. And that's why I love hanging out with them. And it's just a blessing to just be friends with these young people. And they love being friends with, well, I'm not the oldest guy in the gym, but I'm pretty dang close to being one of them. But you don't have to act that way. And that's the whole thing. So again, Dallas Sims, check that one out, the young superstar. All right. Drum roll without drums. Season 14 kickoff. You know what that means, everybody? If you're new to the program, welcome. If you're not, then you know that typically the last few years, we've always kicked off our season. Again, surreal that we're kicking off our 14th season of this thing. Dr. Deborah Heiser is usually our kickoff guest because she is our longest 42 times, 42nd appearance in 13 years, going into our 14th season here. Crazy. We're going to have a fun show with Dr. Deborah Heiser. Let me do a quick piece of this old bio I've got here. She was originally the founder of I Am Age Institute, which she probably doesn't even remember. No, I'm just kidding. Deborah Heiser has a PhD in applied developmental psychology, which means she's super smart. Her thing now is the Mentor Project, which she's built into this juggernaut. And she has a new book coming out on the Mentor Project and it's just amazing. She has publications, grant awards, presentations, used to focus on geriatric topics, still teaches, still does the thing, knows all about palliative care, elder abuse, all these types of things. Practice clinically, focusing on group support. She's a mom, she's a wife, she's done it all. I mean, done it all. We've got so many funny stories. Today, we're just calling it Season 14 Kickoff. Where have we been and where are we going? And I'm going to pull up some old show titles and topics that I have. Debbie has no idea where I'm going with this, and I'm just going to have her riff on these things. Want to welcome back, drum roll, Season 14 Kickoff, my very, very, very good friend, Dr. Deborah Heiser. Debbie, welcome back.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me back on. I just want to say in 14 years, your wife, Sandy, has not changed one bit. Literally looks the exact same. Every year I say the same thing. My gosh, Sandy, you haven't changed a bit. It's unbelievable. She has the best genes ever. She is remarkable.
She is really putting a lot of time into herself and has overcome some things just like we all do. We all go through change in our life, Deb. Thank you for saying that. She's beautiful. She's wonderful. She takes really good care of me and our business. And, I give her a lot of credit. I tell you, Tom's not that hard. Tom's hard to deal with. I mean, I can be a pain in the butt. And so I try really hard not to be, but Sandy's got a really good handle on it. So, you know what, Debbie, you know the drill here for number 42 visit, 42nd visit. This is your life. Let's talk about the family. The kids, when they started 13 years ago, now our 14th season, they were in elementary school. Now they're in college. Crazy. You're a published author now, or soon to be when it's released, and we'll talk about that here later in the show. Joel's done all kinds of stuff. You've got Edith that's in the story as well. You got this great. Will you please fill in the gaps? Just take the rest of the segment. Go for it.
Sure. So let's see. Yes, my kids were in elementary school when we first met, and they're now in college. They're, it's like they're all grown up. 19 and 20. Today is my younger son's 19th birthday. My other son's 20. And it's unbelievable to think of, how far we've come. My husband has a book that has been out a couple of years now called The Unconscious. We've been busy now that the kids are out and we're empty nesters. We're doing a lot. Like you mentioned, I wrote a book. It's my second one. And this book is due to come out on November 13th. So it's really, we're living life and enjoying it. That's what I'll say.
Well, the next time we have you back, which will be less than 6 months, because typically a couple of times a year we have you on, but we will definitely have you back to specifically talk about, everybody, the Mentorship Edge book and discuss all of that. And we'll drop the hints that it's coming. So just be aware of this, because it's what Debbie's done with the mentorship program and project. It's been incredible. She created the whole thing. I mean, and she's got a lot of people that are latched onto this. I've introduced you to several of our friends from the radio program, and so happy to do all those things. So how is the rest of the family, their students, everybody else? Anything else you want to talk about before just get warmed up? Go ahead.
We'll say this, that, you have met Edith. She's my mother-in-law. She would come in the middle of our shows. She lived with us. So I'm the sort of aging specialist that took my work home with me. We had a 3-generation family living together, and I would be in a room with the show turning on, and my mother-in-law, it's great, to live with your mother-in-law. She'd knock on the door and I'd say, "Oh, I'm busy," silently. And she'd say, "Do you want soup?" It was just really funny that she was not going to, be hushed at all. She was like, "You want soup?" And that was just kind of the way that you and I rolled in the beginning. We'd have all these crazy interruptions by a family member, a neighbor kid, whoever, Joel starting a fire in the fireplace, and not knowing that you had to open the flue because we had just moved from an apartment to a house. All of these sorts of things have sort of moved and progressed, and everybody is doing great. We're just, the whole family's just moving along.
It's wonderful. I'm so happy for you. I'm happy the boys are doing well and you're doing great. And, it's just been a fun relationship that we've developed over the years. And it's just, I don't know what to say. I mean, I've got these titles in front of me here. Let me set this up, everybody. We got a couple minutes before we go to our first break here. Since Debbie Heiser, Dr. Deborah Heiser, she's an applied developmental psychologist, author, TED Talk speaker, doing all this. She's done so much stuff. It's just, I'm so proud of her. But it's like, okay, here are some examples of titles from shows, you guys. And here's what we're going to do. I'm going to just grab some of these, and we are going to riff on as many of these as we possibly can, just to jog Debbie's memory, because Dr. Debbie typically, when she comes on the show, we'll have a topic that I'll throw her some crazy idea, and then she'll say, "Oh yeah, that's great." And she's never turned one down. And she'll come up with these outlines and all this. This time I thought, you know what? I'm going to make it a little more challenging for her and easier, because she won't have any prep work, but I'm going to pick her brain a little bit. But so here's a couple of examples. And this is from back 13 years ago, you guys, the very first show, which we'll bring this one into the first one. Deb, Superpowers of Highly Sensitive People. That was show number 1. And it's like, unless I'm going backwards here, and I'm looking at my list here, and I think I might have that backwards. So I do have it backwards, actually. Introducing Dr. Deborah Heiser was the very first show. So that's how my list is set up a little bit. Okay, I'm looking at my notes, everybody, and I got things squared away here. So that's how the show is going to go today. I'm sorry, I'm a little confused here. There's so many topics to go from. Introducing Dr. Deborah Heiser. The second one was Generativity and Civic Engagement. Generativity is something that we got to come back to that one, because that's something everybody needs to understand, why Dr. Deborah and I have such a strong connection, because she's taught me so much about all these topics, and I want to allow her the opportunity to share her knowledge with you. So now that I've got my list squared away here, and when we're doing this is live stuff, man. We don't do diddly crap here. We'll come back. We'll talk more about this. Season 14 kickoff. I'm excited. Can you tell? Where are we going? What are we doing? Dr. Deborah Heiser's here for her 42nd visit. So glad to say, season 14 kickoff. This is the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome to the Tom Matt Show.
Second segment of the Tom Matt Show is sponsored by Craig, Ameriprise Financial, and Craig Stiles. One of the most amazing guys. I had a conversation with a student that I introduced to Craig, and he had lunch with Craig, a computer science kid who was just like, wow, that guy's something else. I didn't realize he had 11 kids and this and that. And I'm like, that guy has so much going on. It is insane. He is our Ameriprise Financial Advisor, and I hope he becomes yours someday because Craig Stiles is the king. I mean, he is just the best person, one of the best people I know around. He's just a good guy. He can help you plan for the life you want today and well into the future, like he is doing with us. And again, as I say, full disclosure, Craig has all of our retirement zone savings. You know, I don't use the word retirement. I have to clarify that with people sometimes because they look at me, you got fired? I'm like, no. I'm refired. People need to be refired. Like my guest today, Dr. Deborah. She's refired 14 times in her life and she's still going. That's the whole thing about refirement. You're going to change. You're going to evolve. Don't get stuck in the ways. If you think you're going to retire and go play golf, good for you. Great. If you're going to, call Craig. He can help you with your greens fees. Call him at 1-800-528-1355. Local number is 517-483-4893. Craig.stiles@ampf.com is his email. His offices are located at 2651 Coolidge Road, Suite 103, East Lansing, Michigan 48823. Don't let the East Lansing address dissuade you from giving him a call or reaching out to him because he can vet any Ameriprise, anybody, even when he worked for the other company, that company with the initials ML, and they're big. He'll help you with any of it. He's that kind of guy. Stations that have carried us in the past, carry us now. Of course, we have WGIM 1240 AM is the flagship of the Michigan Talk Network, where we are syndicated over and simulcast on many stations. 1240 AM in Lansing is the kingpin of that. WJRW 1340 in Grand Rapids, WKLQ 1490 Muskegon, Whitehall, WYPV FM 94.5 Mackinac City, and of course WKAR AM 870 and simulcast at 102.3 FM at Michigan State University. And of course, our very first station to ever carry us on broadcast radio was WGHN 92.1 FM in Grand Haven. Thank you to Will Tiemann and Wendy Hart. Thank you again to Craig Stiles for creating Decideri Analytics, where we are making light of weighted decisions. And lastly, I want to say thank you to the Grubers, Steve and Ivy, most talented people around. They're the owners of the Michigan Talk Network, and they have a lot of faith in us. So please thank them and be aware of all of that. Okay, today's show, season 14 kickoff. I'm all over the place. I'm loving this thing. I love doing radio so much. It's so much fun, the podcast, because I have people like Dr. Deborah Heiser, who's been with me the whole time. 42nd visit. All right, so we just told you about introducing Dr. Deborah Heiser from the list of show titles and topics that I came up with over the last 13 years, because now we're starting for season 14, as I said. Okay, Deb, I told everybody about introducing Dr. Deborah Heiser. And of course, well, okay, that was that one. The second one that we had was Generativity and Civic Engagement Show. Now, you're the one who taught me about generativity. So go ahead, riff on that, because you learned about this a long time ago and you're still performing in that area, but you're doing more things with the Mentor Project. Please go right ahead. Explain to people, what is generativity?
Oh my gosh, I'm excited to talk about this because it's connected to everything and it's still connected to mentorship. So generativity is something we're built to do, just like walking and talking. So most of us think of our physical trajectory in life as one where we increase in our abilities very rapidly. You learn how to walk and talk and you get fast at running and you do all these things. And then at a pretty early age, you start to have a slow and steady decline. Now, that's how we think of aging. What we don't think about is our emotional trajectory. And on that, it starts at birth just the same as we do with our physical trajectory, but it increases and never declines. So right in the middle of that trajectory, when we're in midlife, is a stage called generativity. And this is one where we have a desire to give back to others without expecting anything in return. So imagine yourself as a kid. That's like an unimaginable thing. You can't imagine saying, yes, take my knowledge and expertise and don't give me anything in return. When we're young, we're expected to take in everything around us and absorb. That's what we're doing when we're younger. We're checking off all the boxes in life. I need to, get a college degree, or I need to become an expert in something, whatever it is, get a house, buy a car, whatever those things are in our life, we're checking those boxes. When we hit midlife, we want to be able to share that with others, because otherwise all of those boxes that we spent our whole life checking don't matter. So it's the point in our life where we say, do I matter? Does me being in this world have any meaning? Did I make any difference? Was there a footprint left? So it's not just a legacy. It's really that we're trying to be able to make meaning out of our life. So if we have an opportunity as a grandparent to say, pass down the values, the Thanksgiving dinner that everybody says, this is the same one I've eaten every year. Those traditions, those are passed down because we want to make sure that a little bit of what we did is passed down. If it's work, it might be that you're passing on something that you came up with, you thought of, that you did, and now you're letting somebody else do it. They hold on to that, which is then you living on in that. So it's really one of the most important stages we can reach, which is generativity. And I just want to make one distinction. Most people think of generativity as being generous, and it's not. There's a difference. If you go and you get an ice cream cone and somebody gives you an extra scoop of ice cream, they're being generous. But once you eat that ice cream cone, it's gone. But once you are generative and you give away a piece of your knowledge or your values or meaning or those traditions, it lives on in the world forever. And that is why generativity is so important to all of us. And the three ways we engage in it are mentoring, volunteering, and philanthropy.
Mentoring, philanthropy, and volunteering. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you did.
Perfect. So that's why it's so important, as I'm listening to Dr. Debbie explain this thing, the generativity, my old definition, everybody, I'm going to carry this through, Deb, because we're going to come up on break here. You did a great definition of all of that. Mentoring, philanthropy, and volunteering. My definition, everybody, when I first heard this from Debbie 13 years ago, because remember now, this was episode number 2 of 41 episodes that we've done over the last 13 years. Seriously. My definition for my simpleton brain was when the bling bling doesn't have the same ring ring. It's like when the car in the garage, that Corvette that you've wanted since you were 20, and you finally got when you were 35 or whenever you got it, or 45 or whatever, it doesn't have the same bang for its buck that it did when you were younger. It was like a status thing. Now it's not so much a status thing. It's like, to me, I look at things now and I'm like, is it worth it? Does it have a return on investment? Is there value there? Is it a value add? Do we really need it? That was my definition, everybody. When the bling bling doesn't have the ring ring. Stick around. I'm going to give Dr. Deborah some more of these titles. You see where we're going to go with this. It's going to be a lot of fun. Season 14 kickoff. So excited. Where we have been, where we are going with Dr. Deborah Heiser. This is the Tom Mann Show.
Thank you again to our Segment 2 sponsor, Craig Stiles of Ameriprise Financial. For more information on services provided by Craig, please visit ameripriseadvisors.com/Craig.Stiles or by calling 517-483-4893. You're tuned in to The Tom Mann Show.
Welcome to the Tom Mann Show.
Third segment of the Tom Mann Show is sponsored by Jamie White, White Law. White Law PLLC is where justice meets compassion. Love that tagline. White Law is our advocate for times of need. I've had people call me that are in a jam that need some ideas on legal help. It's nice having an attorney in your pocket that is really there for you, that you can depend on. That's Jamie White, and that's his whole team over there at White Law. They will listen, they will support, and they will fight for what you deserve. And he's a good guy. And the whole crew over there, they're great people. Contact White Law today for your free consultation. That's free. WhiteLawPLLC.com. You can call 517-777 9785. Remember that Jamie also sponsors our Mad Dog Minutes with David DeMarco as our talent, and I do the editing on all of those, and those are on our YouTube channel. That's a sports-related sort of thing that we do. Very popular. It's done very, very well on YouTube. Go check those out. Those are all on the Tom Matt Show YouTube channel. Again, go to our website. All of our sponsors are there at the bottom of the homepage. You can pick that up. You can learn about all the other podcasts. You can click on the different aggregators, the podcast providers that you want. Like, it's all there. It makes it super, super easy. But again, I want to thank Jamie White, whitelawpllc.com. Again, the phone number 517-777-9785. And we thank everybody over there at White Law for what they do for us. We appreciate you very much. All right, back to today's episode. Super excited because today is our season 14 kickoff. And of course, if you've been with the show for a while, then you know that Dr. Deborah Heiser is my friend, my sister from another mister. Been with me the whole time. 42nd visit to the radio program. She was so kind to me back in the day when we were just sort of figuring this whole thing out on the FTNS, All Fitness Network, doing this thing live. We didn't even know what a podcast was. I mean, seriously, it was just, that's how long we've been doing this thing. Podcasts were just becoming relevant. And I had people ask me, well, what's a podcast? Nowadays, people are like, you don't have a podcast? It's like saying you don't have a TV. That's the way it goes. All right. So I'm jumping around here on these old shows. And if you just joined us, Debbie gave a very good intro previous segment on generativity. And you need to understand why generativity is very, very important, because that leads into the mentoring, the philanthropy, and the volunteering. As Debbie says, all those things are tied together. Next one, just going through my list, and I'm just picking some stuff up here. Stigma and mental health issues. Now, let me preface this by saying I have seen some stuff recently, because I get somehow the algorithm on YouTube, because I'm on there so much now, has started pushing a lot of this relationship stuff to me. And I've seen some of these relationship quote unquote experts talking about why therapy is not good. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Therapy saved my life. I mean, I've said that that's why being a mental health advocate on our radio program is so important. So Deb, this one is really important to me because the stigma of mental health issues is still very relevant. Is it not? Can you talk about that, please?
Absolutely. It's relevant. You know, when I was working in aging, I had a hard time calling myself Dr. Heiser, because people thought, oh, no, I'd rather have a brain tumor than someone, think that I'm seeing a psychologist. So it's always been a big issue, particularly with specific age groups. More so I see with people who are late midlife and beyond. That's still holding strong. And it's tough because, mental health is something that is fluid. You can go through something and get over it. You don't want a big physical problem if you can have it. It's much easier to get over something that you might be feeling, like a depression or an anxiety, something like that. So it's really important that we get good mental health information out there so people can see that, if you're older and you suffer from diabetes, or you have a stroke, or you have heart issues, you are far more likely to suffer from depression. And it can manifest in ways that look like physical issues. So a person can be really reluctant to go talk to somebody because it's manifesting as a backache, a headache, things like that, general fatigue. And so knowing what we can expect can help us so that if we are suffering, we can get over it quicker. Or if we know that it exists, if we can prepare for it so that we can look for the signs or symptoms very early. Yeah, it's a big issue.
Well, here's the thing, everybody. Dr. Deborah Heiser is our guest today for our season 14 kickoff. And just throwing topics from previous shows to Debbie and just riffing on where we were in the past, because that was our third or fourth show that we talked about. But you may have an injury. Like, I think about this a lot, Deb, at this point in my life, because I'm in the gym so much and I'm very, very careful. I've been a trainer 14 years now. It's like, I don't want to get hurt because I know how I'm going to feel. And I know mentally I'm going to be really bummed at myself for getting an overuse injury, or because injuries can happen just out of nowhere. I mean, it happens. Okay. You got to be mentally prepared in case something does happen, that if you get knocked on the couch, you got to be resilient enough to get back up and get going again. That's the whole thing about having strong mental health can go into very strong physical health. It's the biology of everything works together. So it's like you got to understand, if you got a great mindset, it's going to make your workouts better. If you got a bad mindset, it's going to make your workout. But if you get dinged, you may be really hurting, and it completely takes the air out of your balloon, especially as we're growing older, because you know, or you should know, that as we grow older, the body doesn't recover as quickly when you stop exercising. And so you need to stay on the pony. All right. So that's all I want to say about that one. The stigma has to go away. Deb, I'm going to throw another one. I got about 2 minutes to go, 2.5 minutes to go before we go to break. Talk about Imagine Age, because Imagine Age was one of the shows that we did early on as well. And that was something that drew me to you. What did you learn from Imagine Age?
This just makes my heart go pitter patter when I think about it, because that was started with my dad. My dad passed away last year, but it was started with him. He and I would work late at night on the website. And it came from, I was working in a really sort of an academic environment in research, and nobody outside of research was hearing about anything. This is also how stigma happens. You know, people talk about all the research things. Everybody pats themselves on the back and goes to a conference and talks about things, and it wasn't making it out into the public. So I wanted to create something that was going to talk about aging in a way that would talk about finances and health and medicine and everything you could ever think of with regard to age, and put it out there in a positive way. And so that website was started back when people really, it was kind of a new thing to put out a website that had blogs on it and things like that. And it really was I loved that website. It did a great job of bringing really important information to individuals and to companies. I found out that companies were using that information, so that it was really helping with pharmaceutical companies and other places that needed to have good information on positive aging.
That's how I found Debbie in the first place, everybody. And when we started to discuss about, because remember, this used to be the Boomers Rock show. And when we've always been a sort of fitness oriented kind of show. And that's how it started, at least. And then we went into the quality of life things. So all of the topics that came along with Debbie, she was on the show so much, and she was my regular person. Felt so blessed to have her as one of my subject matter experts. But Imagine Age that's how I found you. I mean, it was just incredible. And again, I look back on it and I smile and I think about all the things that we've done. And Imagine Age has helped so many people and helped you as well. Going to go to break here, everybody. Let me reset this thing. Season 14 kickoff. Where have we been and where are we going with Dr. Deborah Heiser? This is the Tom Matt Show.
Thank you again to our segment 3 sponsor, White Law PLLC, where justice meets compassion. White Law is your advocate in times of need. We are here to listen, support, and fight for what you deserve. Contact White Law today for your free consultation. Visit us at whitelawpllc.com or call 517-777-9785.
Welcome to the Tom Matt Show.
The fourth segment of the Tom Matt Show, sponsored by Brock Fletcher, Mike Dedman, all the team at Keller Williams Realty, the selling team of Keller Williams Realty in Lansing, Michigan. Phone number 517-853-6408. The number you want to use, though, and the number you want to write on the dust on your dash right now as you're driving around or however you're getting this thing, 517-303-3262. Go online to kwsellingteam.com. kwsellingteam.com is the website. Again, as I said earlier, on our homepage, tommattshow.com, at the bottom of the homepage, you can find all of our sponsors and friends that we support, but definitely our sponsors. And our sponsors are important for you to reach out to if you need their help, between Craig with the finance, Jamie with all of the law talk stuff, and then Brock with the reality of real estate. We try to cover a lot of bases. Sell your home without hassles, like we did. And again, full disclosure, you guys have heard me say this. Brock helped us. He helped me before he even knew who I was. That's the kind of guy he is. He's a trustworthy, great guy. He was the one who said, you need to peel Big House Holt, even though it was our dream home. We built that place from dirt, and it's like we raised our kids there and all this stuff, and had all these tons and tons of great memories. And your forever home turns into a big, giant money pit where two people are living in this thing. And, you got to flip them. You got to flip them to somebody family that needs a big house that you can. That's what Brock helped us do. Again, use this number, 517-303-3262. That is his cell phone number. Brock will get you a call back. You can text him. You can leave him a voicemail. He will get back to you. But don't forget to go to our show, our website, and look at the reality of real estate and listen to some of those episodes. There's maybe 20 of them there. I mean, that's the thing about our guests there. When we have the reality of real estate or financial fitness or mental health advocacy, like we do with Dr. Deborah Heiser and others. But Dr. Deborah Heiser was our very first, and she's the primary driver, subject matter expert for all of our mental health advocacy on our website. All right, Deb, going back to our season 14 kickoff, having a fun time here. Here's one. I'm not going to get too far with this. We may have to continue this on when we promo the book here. Next show you come on here very soon. But healthy dependency. Now that was show number 5. I kind of don't remember this one. Frankly, it's like healthy dependency. What were we talking about there? Do you have any idea what the heck we were talking about?
I don't remember, but I can take a stab at what I think this was. We all think we have to be independent and doing things all by ourselves. And a lot of times we really need help from others. And there's a healthy way to get that dependency. Everybody hears about codependency, and that's not thought of as being a healthy dependency. A healthy dependency is one where you're really looking to somebody to support and to be there for you as needed, but without you relying on them to get things done. So an example of that might be like when we brought my mother-in-law in to live with us. That was not an unhealthy dependency. That was, she needed some support, but we really gained also from that. That wasn't an enmeshment. That wasn't a codependency. It was a thought out, planned out process where we all moved out of our homes in together. So when you think of healthy dependency, it's really important not to think of ourselves in sort of pillars where we're dependent or independent. There's a continuum. And we always want to make sure that we are not so independent that we are not going to ask for help from anybody, but also that we're not so dependent on people that we can't do things by ourselves. So healthy dependency is being able to rely on others, but while still maintaining independence.
Very well said. I mean, because there can be situations where healthy dependency, I like to think that some of the students that I work with, Dr. Deborah Heiser is our guest today, everybody, season 14 kickoff, where we have been and where we're going. But some of the students that I work with, it's not a dependency, but I like to help them with connections and putting them in touch with people so that they know they can depend on me. I had a young man come to me this summer who was very, very desperate. He's an exchange student from Ghana, and he's another one of my gym friends. And he came to me because he needed a job badly. And he didn't explain to me initially how desperate he was until the week later. And he told me, and I said, why didn't you tell me this last week? Anyways, we wound up getting this young man a job. He was very, very grateful. Got him a couple of jobs, actually. But he was at the point where he had a week to go before he had to pay his rent, and he had no money. He knew where to go to. He came to me, and he depended on me to kind of help him out. And that's a healthy dependency. When the students come, be open to helping and at least listening to what they have. And like I tell students all the time, I probably I probably can help you, but sometimes I can't, but I might know somebody who does, probably do. So that's the whole thing about making those connections and just being there for them. Can't emphasize that enough, everybody. For the young people out there, have open arms, have an open mind, don't prejudge, and help them, because having a healthy dependency with young people is wonderful. And it really helps us as a growing older adult. So it really does. It goes both ways for sure. All right. How about this one, Deb? This was show number 7. Are you ready to retire? Okay. Well, since I talk about refirement all the time and I have a show that I gave to you that said, are we ready to retire? Well, there you go. That's a full show in itself. Go ahead. Take the next few minutes.
That is a full show. I love this one because a lot of people have even today, it's gotten better, but it had always been the idea that retirement was golf. I don't know why golf became the big thing that everybody had in their mind that they were going to go play golf. But golf is, I guess, the idea that vacation is what retirement is all about. But as everybody knows, when you take a two-week vacation, you get excited to come home and have your head on that pillow and be at home again into your routine. And that happens in retirement. So what I've always said is to plan for your retirement in advance. And this even goes for people like teachers or firefighters or police officers or military personnel who retire at an earlier age. You need to prepare for that. And the reason is you may not have anything in mind about what retirement is, and you say, I'm going to go wing it. Or you might have an idea in mind, and that doesn't map out for you. But the emotional stuff is one of the things that people forget to tell people that they need to think of. We all know, okay, plan for your finances for retirement. But emotionally, we need to be thinking of, what do we expect to be doing? Where do we expect to be doing it? How often do we expect to be doing it? Because there's no one I've ever met who wants to spend 20 hours of their day golfing. They want to do things. They want to matter. They want to have purpose. They want to have value. They want to make a difference in the world. But they may say, I need to make money. And retirement is an opportunity for a lot of people to do what they've always wanted to do, even if that means a job. So you might be an artist who says, I'm going to go drive a bus so I can go watch all the football games from the field all across the country. You might want to go do Habitat for Humanity. You might want to do anything you thought you couldn't do when you were younger because of time or money that you can now do. So prep in advance for what you want to do in retirement emotionally.
Well, that's the whole thing, everybody. And that's why I came up with the term of the refirement zone, because I was looking at it myself when we started this whole program and, 13 years ago, and I was in my early 50s, and I was like, well, what are we going to do post? So we've been working on side action for a long time. It's been almost 2 years for me now. And I'm actually going back to the university to do some consulting work here very soon, part-time, of course. But it's like, it takes a while, even though we were prepping for 10 years, more than 10 years to get ready for this thing. It still takes time to reevaluate, readjust, and recalibrate your brain on all of this stuff. So what Dr. Debbie's saying is, especially, and again, back to what we're talking about, the stigma, we talked about that earlier, stigma of mental health. You might want to find a therapist just to talk about some of these issues and share with them, because you may find that a lot of these issues, a lot of the feelings that you're having, a lot of the perhaps depression or anxiety that you're having are related to the change in your life, because you go for 30, 40 years doing a job and all these friends that you see all the time, and then you shut that door and you move on to the next thing and go play golf or go on vacation. After 2 weeks, it's like, well, now what? I mean, you may have 30, 40 years to go. We'll talk more about this. Season 14 kickoff. Dr. Deborah Heiser's here. Wonderful to have her here. We have our 5th segment coming up here right after this. You're listening to The Tom Matt Show.
Thank you again to our segment 4 sponsor, Brock Fletcher, real estate agent at the selling team with Keller Williams Realty. For more information on services provided by Brock, please call his personal cell phone at 517-303-3262 or by emailing Brock at kwsellingteam.com. This is the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome to the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Some of the stations that carry us on our broadcast side of things, WKR for one, for example. Thank you so much for listening to the fifth segment of the Tom Matt Show. If you're getting us on the podcast, well, thank you for that as well. Remember, my website, tommattshow.com, is where you can catch everything. It's very easy, one-stop shopping, and then you can go subscribe to all of whatever you want. I mean, if it's going to be on Spotify or if it's iTunes or Google Play or whatever, and then all of our YouTube stuff with the video, please go there, check all of that out. Everything's there. Just check those blue buttons. Deb, how would you like people to get a hold of you? Dr. Deborah Heiser, how would you like people to connect with you?
Oh, there's lots of ways. You can connect with me at mentorproject.org, at deborahheiser.com, on LinkedIn, Deborah Heiser. You can reach me on Substack, on Psychology Today. So those are both my name. Those titles for those are The Right Side of 40. So those are all great ways to reach me. And I hope that you'll also check me out on Amazon, because I have a book coming out called The Mentorship Edge, and I hope you'll find me there as well.
And we're going to talk about that here in a few minutes. But first, I want to hit one more, perhaps two more of our titles from all of the years that Debbie's been with me, because season 14 kickoff show, as I've been saying all show, everybody, where we have been and where are we going with Dr. Deborah Heiser. Debbie, this was one that I pulled up that we had some fun with. I know you're going to remember this one. Bullying in adulthood. Bullying in adulthood. Do you remember that one?
I do. I remember that one. Yeah, that was a fun one that you threw at me like 5 minutes before. And we were like, all right, let's go with that.
It was too. I don't know where the heck I came up with it. It's like, this bullying, it became such a, because that was, which one was that here? Let me look at my, that was 10 years ago that I came up with that, bullying in adulthood. That was show number 26 on this list. So I'm not, that number isn't relevant, but it was in 14 for sure. I have the date on that one. So something was occurring, and bullying has become more and more relevant. The topic is relevant, but then the adult bullying and the things that go on, especially with the cyberbullying. And now 10 years later, where are we going now with all of this social media and all of this? Please, Deb, there's so much to discuss.
Oh my goodness. There's so much. I mean, if you go on social media, Facebook or any of the others, you can see people really laying into other people and bullying them on Facebook, which is just crazy. I think that part of it is like, have you ever driven in a car and somebody cuts you off and you give them the finger, and you would never do that in real life? Or, you maybe say something or behave in a way, maybe you then go do something aggressive that you normally wouldn't do. Social media has that anonymity that people often feel in their cars. And so you'll see bullying behavior come out. You'll also see it in sporting, especially with kids. You'll see bullying taking place in terms of adults with other adults, oftentimes, and how they behave across, if they're at a sporting event, how they may behave with other people. But mostly it's on social media. So I would say, hey, if you're seeing that, get it out of your stream, get away from it. You do not need that in your life. Remove it. And always remember that you may feel anonymous, but everybody else is seeing it. It stays forever. So you really want to stay away from it as much as possible.
I think more and more, Deb, has become more relevant in today's workplace because of, and unfortunately, because of the amount of violence that has occurred in workplaces. You have the term going postal. Well, that's been around for a long, long time. And that's a very unfortunate analogy to throw out there, metaphor, but it's true. And so workplace bullying happens all the time. And if you don't stand up for yourself, you're going to have a very rough time. So you have to understand that people may not even understand, they may not even realize that they're bullying someone, and it's just their behavior. You have to be so much, right? You have to be so much more aware and be much more empathetic and compassionate for people and understanding.
Yeah,
because COVID changed everything. threw everybody into a world of hurt. So we'll just leave it there.
I just want to make one point, though, that you brought up. We talked about this 10 years ago, and the world has changed since then, and it's an online world. Not everybody's back full time at work. Some people now work remotely all the time, or at least part-time remotely. And that brings about an easier way to be anonymous and interact with others in a negative way. So at the workplace, you may not see it the same way it was 10 years ago when there was no real virtual workforce. Now it's changed. And so some of those bad habits that people can get into when they feel anonymous can crop up, and there can be, bullying that you don't really see in the workplace that you might have seen when we were all working in person.
And it may become more of a something that's accepted. And if we don't make people aware of their behaviors, then it's not going to change. It's probably going to get worse. And so life's hard enough. I mean, we got to support each other instead of trying to tear down so many people. Be happy for other people's success. And if you let that darkness of envy get into your soul, you're in for a rough time. And I guarantee you that that's not going to win you any friends. All right, Deb, we got about 5 minutes to go here before we got to wrap this bad boy. And I want to give you plenty of time to talk about the Mentorship Edge book. We'll do a whole show on this here coming up, everybody. I have not read the book yet. It still hasn't been released. But by the time this show drops, it probably will be close to being out. And so, Debbie, first set up something just at a high altitude on the book, why this book and why it's relevant. Let's just start right there.
I really believe that a lot of people throw around the word mentor without understanding the complexities of it. Mentorship isn't just putting two people together and saying, now here you take from the expertise of this person. When most people talk about mentorship, they're talking about a mentee who is looking for a mentor. And that mentor is a nameless, faceless individual that most people are thinking of. When you think of mentorship, you're usually picturing the mentee and the benefits to that mentee. And I really wanted to flip the switch and look at mentorship from the mentor's perspective, and looking at it like we're built to want to give back, but we're wasting our most precious natural resources, which is the people who can give back. So mentoring requires people being able to find those they want to mentor and the mentees who are looking to be mentored. So I talk about all the different ways in the book about how we find each other. And most of us think that mentorship is hierarchical, that it's a highway in one direction up and down. And it's how you get promoted at work. And we usually think of it only in terms of work. But some of our biggest, most amazing things that we've had happen, which is the founding of our country, the tech revolution, all sorts of things have happened from lateral mentors. And lateral mentors are pretty much everyone we know. If you look to your left or you look to your right, you're going to be seeing a mentor. And so I talk about some of the things about what mentoring is and isn't, and how we can access those people who are next to us. So an example is Charlie Camarda. He's an astronaut. He went into space, and he went right after the mission Columbia that where all of them perished upon reentry to Earth. And he got up into space and found out that they were having the same problem that Columbia was. And they didn't know they would get to come back home. They were fine where they were, but they knew that reentry back into Earth could cause their shuttle to explode. Yeah. So what happened was he called a mentor from space, on a phone, called his mentor. And it was a lateral mentor. This was a friend of his who didn't work with him, but he said, tell me straight, am I going to die? Or is there something we can do? And this lateral mentor, this friend of his who he trusted, who he knew would tell him the truth, said, you got to do a spacewalk. You got to get somebody out there to fix this little tiny tile that it was the demise of the previous mission. They did that and they returned home safely. So people don't think of that as a lateral mentor, but Charlie didn't have that expertise. His friend did. And we all have friends who have different expertise than we have. And so the book talks about how we can utilize those around us in work and in our personal development to make our lives much happier.
I can't wait to read it. I'm looking forward to it. And we'll have Deb back very, very soon here. Deb, let's get a wrap from season 14 Kickoff. That was a great synopsis of, and just a quick high altitude of the Mentorship Edge book that you wrote. We got to wrap this thing though, and I want to get a minute takeaway from you. What would you like to have for the minute takeaway? We talked about stigma. We talked about Imagine Age. We talked about healthy dependency. Are you ready to retire and bullying in adulthood? And then we talked about the book, of course. It's all yours. Go ahead. You got a minute.
Well, I want to bring it back to generativity because that's where we started with a lot of what we talk about. And I want to just tell everyone that generativity is really the key to everything. It's connecting us with others. It's what makes us mentor. It's what makes us volunteer. It's what makes us become philanthropists. It really makes us be the people that we want to be. And so in terms of our age, we get happier as we get older. And part of that is generativity. So get engaged with others.
Dr. Deborah Heiser's been our guest today, season 14 Kickoff. So excited to have her back. Love her so much. Where we have been and where we are going. If our show fits your business or group's mission, we want to be of service to you through our guests and topics. Thanks again to Dr. Deborah Heiser, Sandy, Craig, Brock, Jamie. We'll talk to everybody next week. And remember, before you can share love with others, you must love yourself first. Mitch Anderson is our producer. Vanessa is my production assistant. Tom Matt Show is a production of Boomers Rock Media. We want to bring your story to life. Thank you so much for listening. We are out.
The Tom Matt Show is produced by Mitch Anderson of Black Circle Studios. Original music from the Source of Light and Power by the Ark of All.